I lost my job and discovered my credit card was overdrawn by $8,400. I called Mom, and she coolly said, "Not my problem." That's when I took control, paused their bank access, locked every card, and dropped one screenshot. Their luxury vacation exploded in minutes. Imagine this: I'm sitting at home, still in my pajamas, staring at a blank screen. 1 minute I was answering emails, feeling productive, feeling secure. The next, my entire department was gone, replaced by AI, and I was locked out of every system, just like that. No warning, no fanfare, just a 15-minute Zoom call with HR, a generic budget cut explanation, and a severance email that literally bounced when I tried to reply. My world had just imploded. But then, as if the universe wasn't done with me, I opened my banking app, just out of habit, just to feel like I had some control, something left. And that's when I saw it. Bright red. A number that ripped through me, -$8 for 27.19. My credit card balance wasn't just maxed out, it was utterly negative. I blinked, hard. Refreshed the screen. Same number. My thumb, shaking, scrolled through the transactions: flights, a luxury Airbnb, restaurant bills, spa services, island scooter rentals. My blood ran cold. It was them. My parents. All week they'd been sending photos: cocktails at sunset, white sand beaches, some ridiculously bougie hammock overlooking a volcano, from the Canary Islands. And they'd taken my credit card with them. Without asking. Without warning. Just quietly bleeding me dry while I was figuring out how to pay rent next month, now jobless. My hands were trembling when I finally hit call Mom. She picked up on the third ring, the wind, the waves, the laughter all loud in the background. "Sorry, honey, bad signal, we're on the island," she chirped, like I should be jealous. I didn't speak. I just let the silence stretch, the ocean sounds roaring in my ear. Then, slowly, deliberately, I asked, "Did you use my card?" A beat of silence. Then her voice changed. It was cold, flat, devoid of any warmth. "It's your card, not my problem." And that, my friends, was the moment I knew. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a forgotten favor. They knew. They absolutely knew. I told them I'd lost my job the day it happened. And they still flew first class on my dime and ate seafood I couldn't even dream of affording in my own city. I hung up. No yelling. No begging. The realization settled in my gut like a corrosive acid. I opened the banking app again, my fingers moving with a chilling precision. Paused all linked cards. Revoked every authorized user. Reset every password. Then, I took a screenshot of the final transaction: Sunset Yacht Package, Playa Blanca. I dropped it into the family group chat. No caption. Just that. The read receipts rolled in, one by one. Mom. Dad. My sister, who probably knew all along. Nobody replied. But within 5 minutes, the live from the island photos stopped posting. You have to understand, this wasn't some isolated incident. That credit card? It had been in their hands for months, quietly, casually, like I was just a secondary wallet with legs. It started last Christmas. Mom called me, practically in tears, about the furnace breaking down. "We're barely making ends meet," she'd cried. "Just a small loan. We'll pay you back in January." I wired them $2,000 the very next day. February, it was Dad's dental work. Then my sister called, her car had broken down, and she had to get to her yoga retreat. $600. "Just put it on your card, please. I'll Venmo you next week." Nobody ever Venmo'd. And every single time I gently brought it up, it was some variation of, "Stop keeping score." Family helps family. You'll understand when you're a parent. You make good money. What's a few hundred? And yeah, I did make good money back then. I was in tech. Stable job, remote work, decent salary. Not rich, but enough to pay my bills and have something left over. I guess that was my mistake. I let them see it. I let them expect it. I got used to being the reliable one. The one who'd figure it out. The guy who always picked up the tab. The guy who didn't need help, who didn't complain, even when I absolutely should have. When my sister lost her job at the wine bar, I covered her phone bill for 6 months so she wouldn't lose her number. When Dad's transmission blew, I paid half. When Mom maxed out her card buying plane tickets for a wellness seminar, she asked me to transfer the balance for just one billing cycle. They always framed it as temporary, always, but it never, ever was. I never saw a dime come back. No repayment plans, no budgets, no apologies. Just more excuses. Then I started noticing the sheer entitlement in their tone. Can you move your payment date to the 15th? We need to book early for the resort. Be a sweetheart and grab dinner tonight. We forgot our wallets again. You can write it off, right? You work in tech. Why are you being weird about this? It's just money. They weren't borrowing. They were collecting. Like I owed them something for being born. And I'd love to say I stood up to them right away. That I cut them off cold the first time I felt used. But no, I didn't. Because guilt is a strong pull, especially when it's cooked at home. Every time I tried to pull back, they pushed harder. When I said I needed to start saving, my mom cried. Not subtle tears, I'm talking movie tears. She said I was turning cold, that I changed since I got my remote job, that success had made me selfish. When I tried to cancel my sister's Amazon access, she called me abusive. Abusive. Because she couldn't use my Prime account to buy coconut milk and gel nail refills. But what truly broke me wasn't the money. It was when they forgot my birthday. Not oops, we'll do something next weekend, forgot. I mean, completely gone. Not a text, not a call, not even a stupid meme. That same day, I got a receipt notification, facial and couples massage, $298. Charged to my card. They were literally getting foot rubs and a couple's facial while I sat alone in my apartment, reheating ramen. I remember just sitting there, phone in hand, and laughing. That weird, hollow laugh you do when you're so angry, so stunned, so done, you can't even form words. Just noise. That's when it hit me. I wasn't their son. I wasn't their brother. I was their funding stream. And when I lost my job? When the AI replaced my entire department and HR ghosted me? They didn't even check in. Not once. No, how are you holding up? No, you'll land on your feet. Just more silent withdrawals and resort selfies. I was spiraling financially, drowning in bills, rent anxiety, waking up at 3 a.m. with chest pain, checking balances, praying no new charges came in. And all the while, they were sipping sangrias under palm trees on my card. When I finally called Mom and asked her about it, about the charges, about the blatant betrayal, she didn't even blink. It's your card, not my problem. No shame, no guilt. Just pure, smooth apathy. Like I was some annoying neighbor asking for my lawnmower back. I think I just whispered, wow. And I hung up. That was the moment. The absolute moment I stopped seeing them as family. The moment I realized they weren't going to stop. Not unless I stopped them. And what I did next, well, let's just say their vacation ended in under 60 seconds. After I hung up on Mom, I didn't rage. I didn't scream or punch a wall or cry into a pillow. I opened my laptop, logged into every account with surgical precision, and I started cutting cords. First, my credit card portal paused every linked user, disabled every authorized purchase, switched to manual approval for all future charges. Then my bank unlinked all external accounts, deactivated the shared family wallet, froze the savings sub-account my parents had access to in emergencies, reset all passwords. Next stop, Apple Family Sharing. Oh, they loved mooching off my iCloud storage, using my Apple Music, watching movies I paid for. Not anymore. I removed every single device tied to my ID, even Dad's crusty iPad that still had the plastic on the back. Then, I revoked their access to the shared calendar where I politely entered final loan reminders and payment follow-ups they never acknowledged. And yeah, I yanked them from my Netflix. I went full nuclear. And then came the final move. I screenshotted the most recent charge, Sunset Yacht Charter, Playa Blanca for $162. Big, bold, bright red. Underneath it, I wrote just one sentence: "You're officially cut off. Enjoy your last cocktail." Then I dropped it in the family group chat. No emoji. No drama. Just that. It took 23 seconds for the read receipts to light up. Then, chaos erupted. "Dad, what is this? We're on vacation. You can't just cancel things mid-trip. Mom, this is vindictive and immature. We're stranded here. Sister, you're being dramatic. We needed a break, you knew that." I didn't respond. I just watched them spiral. At minute 3, another notification popped up: card declined. Spa retreat balance $189. Then another: Airbnb payment failed. Booking cancelled. Then came the real panic. "Mom, again, the front desk says our room access is blocked. They're asking for a different card." "Dad, are you serious right now? You're sabotaging your own family over a few charges." "A few charges?" I typed one line: "Total charged since January, $8,423.72. That's not a few charges. That's my rent, my groceries, my future." Silence. Then Dad replied, "You could have just talked to us instead of humiliating everyone." That part made me laugh, a bitter, humorless sound. Talk? Like the 12 times I asked for repayment and got ghosted? Like the time I brought up setting a limit and Mom said, "Stop being selfish"? Like the time I said I couldn't afford dinner and they mocked me for letting money control me? No. Talking was over. This was enforcement. I muted the group chat and shut my laptop. And I'll admit, my hands were still shaking. My heart was pounding. The adrenaline was like a tidal wave crashing through my ribs. Because this wasn't just a tech move. This was rebellion. The first real no of my adult life. And it landed like a missile in the middle of their beachfront fantasy. Later that night, I checked my voicemail. 3 missed calls from Dad. 1 from Mom. A long, furious rant from my sister that started with, "You ruined everything," and ended with, "We were counting on you." Yeah, that was the problem. They weren't visiting family. They were draining me like a bank account with a face. I checked one last notification: new login attempt detected. Denied. Location: Spain. Nice try, Dad. I went to bed smiling. For once, the debt collectors were them. They left the island 2 days later. Coach tickets, budget airline, no check bags. I didn't hear a word from them during the flight, but I did get a single notification that made me grin: refund issued. Airbnb cancellation, $1,287. Too late for them to rebook. Too early to extend their trip. Perfectly timed to leave them in the lurch. When they landed, the silence was deafening. Not a text, not a call, not even a "we're disappointed in you" message. That's how I knew I'd hit a nerve. The control they'd always had over me, through guilt, obligation, performance, it was gone. It had taken a layoff and a drained credit line to get me to this point. But finally, they weren't holding the puppet strings anymore. And me? I started breathing differently. I unsubscribed from their emotional economy like I was quitting a toxic job, which, in many ways, I was. I got up the next morning, made myself an omelet, and actually tasted the food. I didn't open my banking app in fear. I didn't flinch when my phone buzzed. I just lived. I started freelancing, contract work at first. Nothing glamorous, but steady. Then I landed a gig for a fintech startup that liked how I handled unexpected disruption in my personal finances. Yes, they saw the gap in my resume and asked. Within a month, I was making enough to cover rent again. No luxuries, no takeout, but also no blood-sucking vacations draining my account. I got a library card. I went to the gym. I slept through the night. That was my luxury, peace. But of course, they didn't stay quiet forever. 3 weeks after I cut them off, my sister cracked first. A random Wednesday, 3:47 p.m. She sent a voice note. "Hey, look, I just think we need to clear the air. Everyone's still a bit shaken after the whole thing. But you went too far, you know that, right?" I didn't reply, so she followed up with the kicker: "Dad's thinking of selling the car. Mom's canceling her yoga membership. We're all making sacrifices. Maybe it's time you grow up, too." I nearly dropped my phone from laughing. Sell the car? Cancel yoga? Meanwhile, I'd been eating canned tuna for 2 weeks and counting coins for bus fare. They weren't making sacrifices. They were tasting accountability for the very first time. The next day, Mom called. I let it go to voicemail. She left 2 messages. The first one was predictable: "We didn't raise you to be cruel." The second one? Consent. But when the resort contacted the bank for evidence and saw the block history, email trail, and credit freezes, they flagged. That one hit different. "Your father might need surgery next quarter. We thought you'd want to know." Surgery. That's when I knew they were pulling out the big guns. Health guilt. The nuclear option of family manipulation. They were losing grip, so they went full tilt. But this time, I didn't bite. I'd spent too many years jumping every time they rang a financial alarm. This time, I watched the fire and kept walking. And here's where it gets wild. 2 months after the island incident, they tried to apply for a joint credit card using my social security number. I got the fraud alert at 10 a.m. while making coffee. My hand didn't even shake. I called the bank, shut it down, and reported the attempt. Later that night, Dad texted, "You're being ridiculous. We only tried because we thought you'd approve eventually." He said it like it was a favor, like identity theft was a casual Monday. That was the last straw. I wrote back, "Let me be clear. You will never use my name, my credit, or my accounts again. If I see one more attempt, I will press charges. This is not emotional anymore. This is legal." No reply, but I knew they saw it. And that's when something cracked open. Week 10 post cut off, I got a message from an unfamiliar number. Turns out it was my cousin, Tara. We hadn't talked in years. She was always quiet at family events, keeping her head down. But now she had stories. Turns out I wasn't the first they drained, just the most consistent. Apparently, they'd borrowed money from 2 other relatives for investment purposes that never materialized. They'd even borrowed against grandma's life insurance policy years ago. Nobody ever talked about it. Everyone just let it go until me. Tara said, "Honestly, you snapping woke the rest of us up. You gave them a consequence nobody else ever had the guts to." That hit me hard. For the first time in my life, someone in my family called me brave. Not the smart one. Not the helpful one. Not the quiet one. Brave, and here's the twist nobody saw coming. The Canary Island Resort? After my credit card got declined and the payment failed, they reported it to collections. I got a call from the manager. She was annoyed, professional, and very clear. Apparently, my mom tried to argue that the charges were a gift from me, that I'd approved everything, that they had my verbal. The whole thing. Long story short, my parents were banned from that property and 2 partner resorts. My name cleared. Their dream vacation spot gone forever. I know what you're thinking. Was it worth it? Losing contact with my whole family over a few thousand? I'll put it this way, it wasn't about the money. It was about the pattern. They saw me not as a person, but as a resource. And the second I shut down the tap, they panicked. Not because they missed me, but because they missed the benefits. That was all I needed to know. These days, my fridge is never full, but it's mine. My phone is quiet, but it's peaceful. And my bank account, still humble, but stable. For the first time in my adult life, my balance isn't just in dollars. It's in dignity. It's been 5 months since I cut them off. 5 months since I became the villain in a family story I didn't even write. And you know what? I've never felt more alive. People talk about freedom like it's a plane ticket or a passport stamp. But real freedom? It's the moment you realize you don't owe anyone your silence just because they share your last name. They said I betrayed them. They said I turned my back on the ones who raised me. But let me tell you something, the ones who raise you don't weaponize guilt. They don't steal your future while calling it love. They don't leave you broken bleeding while they sip wine in a hammock. No. The ones who raise you protect you. The ones who love you don't leave you empty. So when they painted me as the selfish one, the cold one, the ungrateful son? Fine, let them. Because I finally figured it out. I was never part of their family. I was part of their budget. They didn't lose a son. They lost their credit line. And once you see that truth, you can't unsee it. Here's what nobody tells you about walking away. At first, it hurts like hell. You second-guess everything. You stare at your phone, half wishing for an apology, half dreading the next guilt trap. You sit in silence that used to be filled with obligation and wonder if you did the right thing. But then something shifts. You start sleeping better. You start thinking clearly. You start remembering what peace sounds like. It's slow. It's quiet. But when it comes, God, it's powerful. And here's the irony. The more peace I found, the more their world cracked without me. A few weeks ago, I got a letter. Not a text, not an email, an actual letter, handwritten, from my aunt, dad's sister. We hadn't spoken in years. It started like this: I heard what happened, and I just wanted to say, you did what the rest of us were too afraid to do. She went on to tell me stories about them. How they'd borrowed money from nearly everyone in the family. How they'd used illness and tears and promises to pull cash from every direction, leaving burned bridges in their wake. But nobody ever stood up and tell me. And at the end of the letter, she wrote one line I'll never forget: they taught you how to survive, but you taught the rest of us how to say enough. I sat there reading that sentence again and again. And for the first time in my life, I cried for myself. Not from pain. Not from guilt. But from finally feeling seen. Now, I live differently. I don't mean like I changed my number and moved to Bali. I mean I've reclaimed my air. I stop working when my shift ends. I take walks without checking for messages. I look at the price tag for me, not for what someone else might demand. My calendar used to be full of other people's emergencies. Now it's full of nothing. And that nothing? It's mine. I go to cafes and drink the coffee slowly. I read books that don't teach anything, just because they're weird or beautiful. I'm learning to exist without performing usefulness to anyone. That's the revolution. And what's next? Maybe I'll move cities, start over completely. Maybe I'll start writing. Maybe I'll go back to school. Maybe I'll invest in my life the way I used to invest in theirs. I've been building a document titled Project Rebuild. Not dramatic, just honest. It has tabs like emergency fund, finally growing, skills to learn, coding, graphic design, digital marketing, people to stay close to, a list of 3 names, that's it. Real ones, and things I'll never do again: lend money without a contract, apologize for saying no, confuse guilt with love. That last one is in bold. A few nights ago, I had a dream. I was standing in my old childhood living room. Same furniture, same smell. Except I was taller, older, stronger. My mom was at the table going through my bank statements. My dad was waving a bill in my face, asking why I hadn't paid it yet. And my sister was on the couch, scrolling, saying, "You used to care." In the dream, I didn't say anything. I just picked up a pair of scissors and cut a single cord on the wall. The lights went out. They vanished. I woke up smiling. So, if you're watching this, wondering if it's worth it, if walking away will break you? Here's my answer: let it break you. Let it break the version of you that tolerated everything. Let it break the version of you that mistook silence for love. Let it break the version of you that thought being needed was the same as being valued. And when the dust clears, build something better. Build you. Because they'll never admit it. But the moment you said no was the moment they lost their power.